welcome everybody to a podcast that we haven't really named yet, but we're interviewing people. Do we have a name for it yet, Brad? We're not calling it that. So we don't have a name yet, but this is a monthly segment where I'm interviewing different members of the Church of the Redeemer, talking to people about their life here at the church, their life outside the church, and their ministries both in and out of the church as we get to know one another better. And I am delighted today to have with me Lisa Andrews. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm very well. Good to see you, Phil.
And Lisa, how long have you been connected to the Church of the Redeemer?
So I think we've been connected to Redeemer for about 3 years. And I believe my first experience was being interviewed, ironically, by Aaron Kleinfelter with my colleague and friend, Maggie Goff, of all people. Yeah. So that was our first experience here.
Because you both are nutritionists, is that the appropriate title? Or work in the nutrition field?
Yes. So, I mean, personally, I joke that I like the term dietitian because the RD stands for real deal in nutrition.
Right. Right.
And Maggie's the same. She does health and wellness types of things, and that's sort of how we met was through work. And we met. We both had 2 girls, although you guys cheated and had a boy, and so I feel kind of left out. But we bonded over coffee and became friends, and that's how it kind of worked.
And at the time, were you attending a different church, or?
We were kind of like in church limbo at the time. We were Catholic for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm still sort of Catholic-ish because that was my upbringing. But we weren't very happy with what was kind of going on with our church and the messages, and we didn't feel very connected. And so I think at the time we were really kind of loosey-goosey with church, to be honest.
Did Maggie evangelize you or Aaron, or was it a little bit of both?
I think it was kind of a combo platter of the two.
Those two together, that's hard to resist.
It was pretty big emotional stronghold, I guess.
So, and you and Ryan were received into the Episcopal Church just this past year.
Yes.
So you are Episcopalians.
We are Episcopalians.
But I will say, I'm with you in terms of recognizing how you were raised, and I was raised in one of the Lutheran traditions, and there's still a really strong strain of Lutheranism in me.
Sure.
And here I am, not only Episcopalian but professionally Episcopalian, and I recognize, and I'm not ashamed of my upbringing. I'm really grateful for it. Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes us who we are today. Yeah. So maybe becoming an Episcopalian is what it took to make you a better Catholic.
It could be.
So maybe that's what it took.
Maybe, yeah.
And are you involved? You are involved. I know the answer for myself, but for those listening at home, are you involved in any particular ministries here at the church?
Really, I guess the only real ministry, I shouldn't say real ministry. I'm the leader, if there is a leader, of the Cookie Guild, or we call it. I kind of renamed it the Goody Guild because I'm a wordy person and I like words. So we should call this Redeemer Radio, by the way.
Ooh, Redeemer Radio is good.
And then once the health and wellness ministry, I guess, is up and running, I'd like to be a part of that. I'm part of Main Dish. I've helped a little bit with Meek. And then the Free Store Food Bank, I'm on their list, but inevitably it seems like every second Saturday of the month I always end up having something to do. So those are the things that I'm involved with here.
Yeah.
Food, go figure.
And sure. I've seen, and you get interviewed, like I was joking before we started, but you get interviewed for things. I've seen you on the news. What in your regular vocation in your daily life outside of the church, what gets you pulled into these conversations that are sort of newsworthy, or that are where people are interviewing you or wanting to talk to you?
Well, the TV stuff, on camera in the station, really kind of started as a fluke. I was a media rep for a granola bar, it's really not a granola bar, it's a nut bar. And I was like, that's kind of fun to be on TV. Maybe I'll just, keep the contact information and pitch them an idea here and there. And then I kind of was the media rep for the Ohio Dietetic Association. Well, first I was media rep for Cincinnati Dietetic Association, and then I got roped into being for the state. And so now it's sort of my own little personal challenge to get on TV at least once a month for somebody to have a face of reasonable nutrition, because there's such a lot of crazy out there. And
what does reasonable nutrition mean to you?
reasonable nutrition to me means sort of science-based, but also things that are reasonable for people to do and for people to eat.
In terms of expectations?
Well, in terms of expectations, and as far as just not seeing food as punishment and seeing it as something not to waste and something to share and something that's good for our bodies, but something we also enjoy, so it's not so super militant. So my message is always, it shouldn't be over the top expensive. Unless you can afford that, that's totally fine, but you don't have to. It should be convenient in some way that you're not, killing yourself to prepare it. And it should always be something that you look forward to eating and not be like, oh, God, I have to have a radish salad, or, oh, that sounds terrible. So so that's kind of where that TV piece came in. And then last year I wrote a grant, which was a total fluke. I think it was just, I had a significant birthday coming up. My sister-in-law was dying. It just really started making me think, like, what am I here for? Like, what can I do to give back? What would be worth seeing? I don't know. And so I ended up doing a little pantry project to feed people, because food is really vital to life and it's important to me.
This pantry project, we had you come and speak about it a little bit at church last spring.
Right.
But I'd love if you could tell people again what it is that you're doing, because I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So it really started with a Facebook feed. Somebody in Arkansas had started a tiny pantry there, and I saw it and basically pitched the idea to my own neighborhood, and literally, like, it just kind of happened in 2 weeks. I mean, there was a Presbyterian church that said they would place it on their lot, and then somebody who was a builder who said, I can make it. And so I didn't even know what it was going to look like. I didn't really even care. I was like, oh, well, we'll put it up and see what happens. And so that I just kind of took it over and started reaching out to neighbors and saying, hey, we're doing this little pantry thing for people that don't have enough food. This is where it is.
And
please
what is
come
it?
and donate.
What are you using?
It's a little tiny box. It looks like a Snoopy house. It's like red and white. It's pretty cute. And it, the guys had to replace the doors a few times. We've had inappropriate stuff in there, and then somebody puts some beer in it, and we, ha ha ha, very funny. And then I get all angry and be like, don't do that. So, but once I saw that kind of take off, I thought, that's kind of cool. Maybe we can do more of them and see what happens. And I'd never written a grant before. I didn't know anything about grant writing. I did a little bit of work this past summer before the grant with some kids that were more or less couch surfing. I mean, they were going from rec center to rec center, and I did some cooking classes with them, and they were so excited to, like, have a can of beans to work with and just learn how to cook for themselves and their family, and that just really, really touched me. So that's kind of where that came from.
So how many pantries do we have out there now?
Well, I like to say this one goes to 11 because we have 11.
That's perfect.
I love Spinal Tap.
Yeah, of course.
We were supposed to have 10, and it turned out that Walnut Hills had an extra news box, and I just kind of saw it as a sign that we should do an extra one there, because they had just lost their Kroger. That was sort of in the news. They didn't have a store. And the person that really wanted to do it, that I initially turned down, and then the next day literally turned around and said, I really think we should do this here, was an Episcopal priest, and she was hilarious, and I just felt this call to work with her, and she was very happy when I called her the next day, and I said, I know you're going to think I'm crazy because I told you we already have another parish that wants to do the pantry, but I just feel really strongly that we should put another one here, and they already have a box, and so I just see it as a sign that we should just have an extra. So.
And she said, absolutely.
Yeah, and the one is amazing. It looks like their church. Do
you remember her name or which church this is?
Oh yeah, Stacy Salas.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Stacy's great.
Yeah, Church of the Advent.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. She's doing good work over there.
Yeah, she's very
great.
cool. Yeah.
So how do these pantries get stocked?
So the idea is to have a point person in each neighborhood that reaches out to the community for donations. So some of them are near physical gardens where there's already sort of some food happenings going on. A couple are near rec centers, and then a few are near churches. And then there's one in North Side that's near school. And so the school kids have kind of donated, the teachers have donated. And because we've been on the news, both good and bad,
Sure.
for different things, we've brought some awareness to them. And that's
And then
basically
how
that's work.
often is there turnover? Like how often do you need to reload?
Oh, I mean, they're probably reloaded a couple times a day. I mean,
wow.
I literally stopped one day last week and put some things in, and then I got a call to be on Fox because somebody had put beer in there. And when I came back, the things that I had placed were gone, but then there was new stuff there. So it was crazy. I mean, I was literally gone within an hour. Somebody had come and taken some beans out and then put some granola bars in or something else. So it's frequent.
Was it? I mean, was it good beer at least?
I think it was like Wiedemann's or something.
Oh, right. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even. If it was
Yeah, it wasn't
Rheingeist,
worse
maybe
than-
we'd
yeah.
have a conversation.
Well, then I would just go and take it
Right. That's
myself,
right.
right?
That's right.
So
and replace it
there's
with
that.
lemonade or something. With all of the things that you're talking about, I sense when you were talking about. You talk about this, and I hear you talk in terms of a vocation or a calling rather than just a job. And you were
Sure.
talking about sort of taking. It sounded like you took stock last year, and were like, "What? How do?" And I guess I'm just curious about how you understand your work in terms of calling.
I think I fought it for a long time. I think I grew up being sort of a controlling person and not always listening to my gut. And now I don't know if I'm, just too impulsive or just kind of going with the flow, but I feel a much bigger sense of peace just sort of doing things where I think I can help, if that makes sense.
And food is the area.
And I think food is the area. I mean, for better or worse, people are always going to have to eat. We always need food, and sometimes it's abused and overeaten and whatever, it is what it is. So I guess I've, over the years, just counseling people, seeing my mom struggle with food. I struggled with food when I was in high school, had an eating disorder. So I think I carry
So
some
it's
guilt.
something it's something you understand.
Yeah. So I think I carry some guilt from wasting it for so long, or wasting time thinking about it, which is sort of weird because it seems sort of like, well, you're still thinking about it, but I'm not. It's not taking over my life like it did. If that makes sense.
Well, because you're thinking about talking about food in a healthy way and
Right.
helping other people understand it in a healthy way.
Right.
So you posted something on Facebook about a week ago where you said that diet is a 4-letter word.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I started a new diet today.
Ah.
Okay. So I shouldn't call it that.
No.
So I'm curious. I'm gonna not call it a diet.
That's okay.
But I would love to know from your perspective, talking to me, where weight is something that I struggle with, and in taking care of myself and being
Sure.
healthy and having a healthy relationship with food is something that I struggle with.
Sure.
I want to not stress eat,
Right.
or just like when I'm having a tough time. Driving straight to the convenience store and jamming out on sugar is probably not the way I'm supposed to go about it.
Sure.
But you are the dietitian who brings freshly baked chocolate chip cookies to church on Sunday mornings. So if I'm not going to call it a diet, that's
Right.
cool. I'm going to play ball here with you.
Sure.
What's my attitude? What am I going to want to? How do I want to look at this?
That's a good point. So I
And
would
that's
look
okay.
at
I
it-
don't need to call it that. But
Yeah.
let's.
I mean, so, and the reason that was, I guess I want to clarify my post first.
Sure.
So I was going to speak on Saturday to cancer survivors, specifically breast cancer survivors. And, being women, we're a little bit more conscious of our weight as it is. And cancer, especially breast cancer, is one that typically people gain weight during treatment because they're on a lot of different hormonal therapies and whatnot. And, my bent on that was, your body has already been punished enough. Don't punish yourself and put yourself on some, sort of militant eating plan while you're doing this. You need to nourish yourself. So what I would say, to you, I guess, is to just be kind of mindful about it. Like, when you are stressed out, think about, what's eating me that's making me eat? Like, what is it that is stressing me out? And what's maybe a gentler way of dealing with it than just cramming a bunch of sugar down my throat that I'm going to
Right.
feel horrible about, and then I'm going to be on the diet, cheat, repent, repeat type of cycle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I think with a lot of people, it just comes to forgiveness. I mean, just have a little grace. Be like, all right, well, I had a cookie. I'm going to move on now. And
Right.
it really does take a long time to kind of get to that point
Well,
where
good-
you just go, well, I don't care. You know,
Well, and
like,
you
all
have to
right, I had a
and
cookie,
you have to
so what?
rewire yourself a little bit, I think,
Yeah.
or at least I feel like I do, because you were just saying, pay attention to those stressors, but that is
Yeah.
my stress management.
Yeah.
So I have to come up with new practices,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, nature abhors a vacuum,
Yeah.
right? So you can't just quit doing something;
Sure.
you replace it with something.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to actually think about what stresses me out, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I hate to tell you.
And
You're going to have
and
to be at one with the stress.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Can't I just eat the stress?
Yeah.
So is this something that you deal with people on a fairly regular
Yeah.
basis?
Yeah, so, sometimes I suggest that they reward themselves for good behavior, or what a good behavior, a healthy behavior. So if you hate going to the gym, throw a quarter in a jar every time you go, or every time you pass up the box of donuts at work, throw 50 cents in a jar, and then save it up for something meaningful to you that's not food related.
Oh, I was gonna say, so not like a huge Hershey's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't go out to Dairy Queen and be like, I'm going for the Blizzard now.
Right.
This is all mine. But it's almost like any other, it's almost like any other addiction to some degree,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it hits the same dopamine receptors as anything else. And I'm not saying, oh, you're addicted to food or you're addicted to sugar, but, we do get kind of, we have addictive personalities.
I'll say it
That
for you,
happens.
so don't
Yeah.
worry. I mean, it's not something. I mean, we're talking about it in an interview, so
Sure,
but I would
yeah.
love, because I want people to know, one, that it's not something we should be ashamed of
Sure,
or embarrassed of.
right.
The idea that we struggle with this stuff in the dark.
Yeah.
And to be able to struggle to talk about it, but also because I've got you here, and I'd love to think.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I was thinking this morning on the way to work. Oh, here I am starting this new food plan, shall we say? And I'm going to see Lisa today. That's
Yeah.
a conversation I'd love to have with
Sure.
you. And in
Yeah.
would you, then that how we eat, both good and bad, is connected to our spiritual life.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how we've got you, and we've got Maggie, and we've got Cynthia Bloxam. Are there
Yeah.
any other
And
dietitians? And Hollis Bass as
Hollis,
well.
yeah, and Hollis, it's so weird coming here because, like I've known Hollis since she was a student. So like she was probably one of the first people I ever really mentored or helped. And we were about the same age, but she did her degree in nutrition, I think, as a second degree. But I knew her like literally as a student, which is kind of cool. And then, Cynthia is sort of this, wise old owl of nutrition who's been
Yes.
around for a really long time, and she's a very strong advocate for our profession. And then, Maggie's kind of the millennial. So it's really kind of a really interesting mix that we're all there, and we all, here, meaning that we all do the same thing, but in different aspects, I guess, which is kind of cool.
It would be interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see what kind of ministry or what kind of program, and it might not be long term. It could be a class we do,
Sure.
but because we do have so much. I mean, I remember talking to Maggie and Brad about a parenting class that brought them here, because regardless of what you think about any specific denomination or worship style, everybody who's a parent goes, I need some help with
Oh, yeah,
parenting.
sure.
And it would be interesting to see what kind of people that we could reach on a spiritual level if we were ready to talk about where food plays a part in our spiritual
Sure.
lives.
Yeah, definitely.
I have no idea what this is going to turn into, but I'm really interested to
Hey.
see.
Let's bring it on.
Do you feel like, and it's, gosh, I hope the answer is yes, but it could be no. Do you feel like Redeemer, like the church that you're a part of, this community is supports you in your ministries and supports you in your vocation?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel, for one, I never got the sense of belonging in a previous church. And so, I am flattered when people reach out and say, hey, can you pitch in with such and such? Or, this weekend, Brad reached out and said, hey, we need this like anafraise dip from Honduras. And, the fact that I'd been to Honduras before was kind of neat. And I knew sort of what the bean dip looked like, but I hadn't eaten it in a long time. I was like, oh, I can totally make this. And then I have a child from Central America. So there's always like these very cool coincidental connections, and I want to serve. I mean, I want to be helpful. That's what I think we're here to do.
Yeah.
So
First of all, the both
Yeah.
bean dips. I'm not sure which one you made, but both of them were phenomenal.
they were phenomenal.
I tried both. So thank you for that.
Mine was the
for
black
sure.
one.
Oh, yours was the dark one with the cheese on top.
Yeah, with the cheese on top. Yeah.
Yes, and then the lighter one had some meat in it.
Yeah, a little chorizo or something. It
Who
was
made the lighter
darn
one?
tasty. Yeah, somebody from the Goody Guild.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two more questions for
Yeah,
you,
sure.
and then you're free.
Yeah, right on.
One is, and you've sort of talked about this, but I'd love to put a finer point on it. Where do you see God working in the work that you do? When you're out doing the work that you do, both in the church and outside of the church, where are you spotting God? And I don't necessarily mean like where are you being God? Don't worry.
Oh, yeah,
Where
sure.
are you spotting Jesus at work in this world when you're doing your work?
Just like through my pantry ministry, when I met people that were on the same page and just kind of let down their guard and were just genuine. To me, those were the people that I knew I could kind of count on, and we had sort of the same mission and the same passion in helping people. The last pantry that we placed was in Lockland, and that wasn't a neighborhood that I had originally chosen, and I really didn't know a whole lot about Lockland, but the person that ended up sort of championing it had been somebody that used the services herself. She lived in Las Vegas and had gone through a divorce and, needed to use a food pantry. And so she felt very powerful and very passionate about having to give back. So when I meet people like that I just sort of click with and just kind of get, those are my people. I have a really hard time making small talk. I mean, I'm a really social person, but I kind of prefer a really small group of people because I can get to know people better than being, in a big group of people where I can only talk about the weather or what color shoes they have on or whatever it is. It doesn't bring out the best in me, and I don't know if it really brings out the best in the other person.
I was the same way in college, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to these parties and the music's playing and you're like, but how can we have conversations? Which
exactly.
everyone else is like, well, that's not why we're here.
Right,
Well, then I
sure.
guess I don't belong here.
Right, right.
I hear
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So, and I guess my other question would be, and thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Sure.
What can your church do to support you in the work that you're doing?
Just continue to reach out and network. I would love for a handful of food drives a year just to support, the pantries that are going on. Anybody that's ever interested in food that, wants to reach out and, help other people that either don't know how to cook or don't know how to shop or just need a meal here and there. I mean, somebody called me to do main dish because, this person had knee surgery and they were kind of hobbling around. I was like, oh, somebody wants me to cook for them. How cool is that? And then it was just like all this pressure, like, well, I have to make it look nice. It can't just be
Right.
like chili or something. But then I was like, why not? That's good. That's okay. That's still food. That's hearty. It's healthy. It's fine, So yeah, I'm just, honestly, I'm just very happy to be here. I just feel very good about being here. Anytime we stay for things afterwards, we're always glad we did, even though the kids get kind of squirrely and, they're getting a little too old to be cool and they want to go home and work on homework right away. But I feel this draw to stay, even though we get busy just like everybody else. I hate the word busy to some degree because we're all busy, but we all have choices of where we want to be.
Yeah.
So I think that's
It is
how you got to
you're
look
right,
at it.
though. I mean, you're right. We are busy, and we do have to make choices. But I get that it's a tough call sometimes. But I agree with you when we stick around. By the way, I got to connect with both of your daughters this past Sunday for the first, really kind of the first time, and we had the Connect Four.
Oh, yeah.
And we were going around speaking to each person
Mm-hmm.
almost, and it was the first time when I'd really gotten to sort of, even if it was for 12 seconds or 30 seconds, to really connect, to make eye contact and talk with
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
each of them separately, and that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're really, they're blessings. They're good kids.
Yes.
We yell periodically and just like any other parent does.
Yeah.
But we know that they love us, and we will always love them and support them no matter what they do. So.
Well, yelling is one of my love languages, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
completely understand. Well, listen, I appreciate your time,
Sure.
and I really appreciate your presence in your ministry at Redeemer. So excited for what we get to do moving forward. I'm
Sure.
excited to find out what God's going to have us do, and thank you for taking the time today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me as a guest.
Oh, what a joy. Thank
Yeah.
you.